So this is my Sony a7R IV and I've had this for about 6 years, but I've decided to change to Nikon for all of my landscape photography. So in this video, I'm going to be opening my brand new Z8 and I'm also going to be talking through some of the reasons why I got this and I'm moving away from Sony, just so maybe it can help you make a similar decision or just inform your own thought processes around what camera to buy for your first camera or maybe your next camera or upgraded camera. So before I was using Sony, I was a Canon user. I had the original Canon EOS 5D Mark I, and then I had a slight flirtation or, a little bit of time with a Hasselblad X-Pan II, which was just a magical camera, but I wanted to switch back to digital at that point, but just because I found that I wasn't taking enough photos, and even though I loved the X-Pan, I just really didn't, I feel like I couldn't invest enough time shooting film. So that's when eventually I did kind of go back to Canon for a while. I had an EOS 6D Mark II, so not the mirrorless, the actual SLR. And then I migrated from that to Sony. So the Sony a7R IV and my Sony a7S III for a video camera. So why have I switched to this camera? So first of all, I actually just want to go and open this box for the first time and have a look at the Nikon Z8. I've never even held one, which could be a mistake. It's probably a good idea to hold a camera before you use it for the first time. Instruction book and warranty and all that kind of stuff. And under here is the actual camera. First of all, I just want to have a look. I've got the strap, which probably won't ever use. We've got the battery charger, the power cable for the battery charger, USB-A to USB-C cable. Looks like some brackets to hold in cables on the side of the camera. And of course, the actual battery itself. This is an EN-EL15C battery. Okay, moment of truth or excitement, whatever you want to call it. Here's the actual camera body itself. So I'm kind of really curious about how it's going to match up to the size of the a7R IV here. So it's got a reasonable amount of weight to it. Okay, here we go. Okay. For some reason I was expecting, I don't know, I was expecting it to be a bit bigger or a bit smaller. I know that's a bit of a strange thing to say. It does feel very nice in my hand here. It's a very deep grip, and I've got quite big hands, so this feels really comfortable. You can see that my pinky finger at the bottom here is not actually hanging off the bottom, so that's going to be really nice compared to the a7R IV. And you can see that my pinky finger at the bottom it's still on the body, but it's kind of hanging down just that little bit. So first off the bat, the camera body, the Z8 feels a lot more sturdy in my hand. Have a look at the screen. So the screen mechanism for this thing it looks kind of complicated to my first glances, but it feels kind of solid. I definitely feel like a fully articulating, fully flippy screen, I don't know, would feel a bit more normal, but it could just be that I'm used to using things like the a7S III with its fully flippy screen. So I'm sure I'll get used to it. Okay. Time will tell whether I enjoy using that screen or not, or that articulation or not. The screen itself it's okay. I feel like it's reasonably big, but I'm actually filming this video on the Nikon ZR, and the screen on the Nikon ZR is just big and bright. I kind of feel like every camera in the future should have as big a screen as the Nikon ZR. So looking at this side by side, it kind of feels small, but that's only because I'm looking at that screen at the minute. Decent viewfinder cup, though I can see quite a bit of ambient light around the side. but I think it's fine. Probably be fine out in the field. I will be testing this thing out fully, so if you're interested in my first experiences actually taking photos with this thing, make sure you subscribe, because that's coming very, very soon. I hope, if I can organise the trip, and weather dependent. Let's have a look at some of the flaps. Just your standard kind of coverings, but they do have little ridges around, which I'm guessing contributes to the Z8's weatherproofing or weather resistance. We've got full-size HDMI, which is really nice, because even though I've got this for landscape photography, it can shoot 8K video, which I'm really keen to try out, even if I don't know that I'll be shooting a lot of YouTube videos in 8K, just because of the file sizes. And we've got microphone input and headphone output. On this side, got the memory card. So we've got SD and CF Express. Going to have to probably upgrade to a decent CF Express card for photos and also the 8K video, because the A7R4, at the minute I'm using an SD card. So I'll probably use that to start with, but then I want to basically shoot dual photo recording to this thing, just in case I get a card failure. In terms of the buttons on the back, everything is pretty accessible. Buttons feel fine. A little joystick. Initial impressions in terms of ergonomics, at least, is I think this thing is going to be pretty useful. If I compare the viewfinder cup to the one on the A7R4, the one on the A7R4 actually fits my eyes a bit better. You can see that on the A7R4, it's more like an oval shaped cup, whereas on the Z8 here, it's a circular shaped cup. I'm assuming you can get aftermarket ones with maybe different shapes. I'm not sure. Might have to look into that. All right, so that's my first impressions, but why did I buy this thing in the first place, and why am I selling my Sony cameras? So I've made a few little notes here just so I can remember to cover everything, just in case it's helpful to you, really. Here's the thing. I was kind of in a lot of different brands at one point. So because I've moved camera systems and Canon here, there, moved to Sony, I can actually see it. On the A7R4 at the minute, I'm using this Metabones adapter, but I'm actually using my Canon L-series 16-35. I think that's the Mark III on there at the minute. And that's kind of okay, but the Metabones adapter is kind of chunky, and I don't know, it just never felt quite right. It might could have been psychological. I never had that confidence factor. And I've used adapted lenses on other things before, but I just felt like the balance is kind of off a little bit because of this adapter sticks out a bit. The weight in the camera bag is just another thing to carry. This Canon lens is 2.8 lens, so for landscape photography, don't really need 2.8. I'm not really doing a lot of astrophotography, so it's also heavier than an f4 lens would be. I also had a Sigma 24-70, so that was native Sony E-mount, but recently, about a few months ago, I was out taking some photos in some pretty horrible conditions, and I just wasn't concentrating, and the tripod blew over and completely smashed that 24-70 lens. So I've also got the Sony 70-200 G Master 2.8. Again, it's a 2.8 lens. It's heavy, too heavy to hike with if I've got all the other lenses. So I'm in this position, or I was in that position, where I could either stick with the Sony bodies and basically have to buy 3 new lenses, f4 lenses, to cover decent focal length ranges for landscape photography, and potentially I could have upgraded, or could have thought about upgrading from the A7R4 to the A7R5, because the A7R5 has a few little nice features like a built-in bulb mode timer, and it has a sensor shield, I think. So basically, yeah, I needed all new lenses, effectively f4 lenses for my Sony. So it got me to thinking, what brand, what camera is going to be right for me going forward? And do I want to continue to invest in the Sony landscape, pardon the pun, the Sony brand? But there was a lens which I'm filming on right now on the Nikon ZR, the Nikon 14-30 f4. For some reason, I've been really wanting that lens for so long, and it's kind of technical but also I suppose a bit of an emotional purchase. The thing I love about this lens that I'm filming on right now is that it has a flat front, and at 14mm, that's pretty cool. It means I can use my case filters on that lens without any problems. A lot of wide-angle lenses have, protruding bulbous front element, front glass at there, which makes it kind of almost impossible really to use filters at that wide angle without getting loads of vignetting, or basically just making the whole thing just too complicated. So I am so excited to use my case filters on that lens that I'm filming on right now. And that's an f4 lens as well. I've bought 2 other lenses, which I'll probably get into in another video, but it's going to allow me to cover right from 14mm right up to telephoto. They're all f4 lenses. They're going to be lighter than my 2.8 lenses, and they're all native lenses, so no more adapters, which is, it's going to be nice just to be able to click on a native lens and it just work, and no faff. All right, what else? Why didn't I choose the Z9 or the Z7 II for landscape photography? So the Z7 II would kind of been my choice over the Z8, but it's a 5-year-old camera, and the price of buying that 5-year-old camera, I think, is a bit insane at the minute. That camera, the Z7 II, also doesn't have a sensor shield. This has a sensor shield just to help prevent some of that dust and dirt and whatever getting onto the sensor when I'm changing lenses. There's just one less hassle, one less mental hurdle to deal with. And it's just, I'm trying to simplify and reduce all of those mental distractions so I can just be out in the landscape and just soak it all in, and everything just flow nicely, and I can concentrate on the experience of taking photos, and rather than worrying about all these little tiny niggly technical things, because I film my landscape photography stuff out in the field, I've already got that whole extra level of complexity in terms of filming these YouTube videos. So I just want my whole process to be as simple as possible. Also, as I said earlier, I'm filming now on the Nikon ZR, and before, somewhere over the back there, I was filming on the Sony a7S III. So now I can take the Nikon ZR, my Nikon Z8, and 3 lenses out into the field, and I can use those lenses interchangeably on the landscape photography camera and the video camera. And again, it's cutting down on the weight. I'm not having to use I'm not having to take my Sony with a Sony lens for video, and Nikon camera with Nikon lenses for the photography. Really trying to dial in my whole workflow. So why not the Z9? Simply, it's too big and too heavy compared to the Z8. If the Z7 Mark III was out and it had a sensor shield, I'm 99% sure I would have gone for that over this camera. And maybe in the future, if I really want to work on the total weight of everything I'm taking, then there's a potential for me to, quote, downgrade to that camera. But this camera shoots 8K. So for some things on YouTube, that's going to be really useful. I can record in 8K, and if I need to punch in to certain details, because I'll still be uploading in 4K to YouTube, I can punch in and I'm not going to lose any pixels or any quality. All right, anything else in these notes? Oh, I will be covering my complete setup in a future video. It's kind of a bit of a cliche these days, the what's in my camera bag kind of thing. But I think it'll be really interesting to hear my thought processes behind it, because a lot of time on YouTube, you have those kind of gear videos, but people don't really go deep into the why behind they bought certain things, and that doesn't really help anybody. Doesn't help you to maybe think through some different decisions you might want to make. Or I think hearing people's thought processes, especially in the age of AI, when it's just regurgitated, learnt stuff by AI, I think having that human opinion is going to be more important, quite frankly. Subscribe for more landscape photography videos, and for my first ever Z8 in the field video coming very soon. I'm Jason Roberts, and I wish you happy landscapes. Bye.